Alright, what's up, gang? Today we're going to be basically making a follow-up video to the whole Completionist charity situation, because the Completionist has now released his own response to all of the controversies that have come out, and Mudahar, aka Some Ordinary Gamers, has made his own video response responding to the Completionist video. Kind of confusing, there's a lot of shit going on it. So in the Completionist response video, he basically apologizes for all of the discrepancies, all of the miscommunications, that's his words, not mine, for all the stuff that had happened with the charity fraud allegations, which is the biggest problem with what the Completionist did. That's why Carl Jobs and Some Ordinary Gamer made the original video about, the Completionist charity situation, because they were accusing him of charity fraud. And to those allegations specifically, he basically just apologizes and says a little sob story about them. And then for any other allegation that he got, he gave very little proof to what had actually happened, and very, very little receipts, if you can even call them that, for situations that weren't as important as the charity fraud allegation. Then Mudahar made his own video talking about this today, actually, and it's a way better response video than the Completionists. Now, in Mudahar's video, I think that the biggest point that Mudahar makes is that the Completionist downplays what actually happened and almost tries to forget about the entirety charity fraud allegations. Remember, this is very important. That was the biggest thing he was getting accused of, was charity fraud. So to understand that, we should probably understand what the definition of charity fraud is. Charity fraud is when somebody takes advantage of a charitable or non-profit organization for their own personal gain. Fraud is defined as the intentional description or misinterpretation made for personal gain. Defrauding a charity can be anything from falsely claiming to be a victim of a disaster in order to get money from the charity, or stealing donations from the collection tin to set up a fake charity and pocket the donations. Fraudulent activity can also occur when people make dishonest or inflated claims about how much money they raise or how much it helps the actual cause. Some of the most common ways to commit charity fraud include pretending to be a charity or falsely claiming to be affiliated with a legitimate charity in order to solicit donations, making false representations about the cause or amount of money that will be donated to the cause. Now, the reason I read that is because the Completionist basically, like I said, apologizes for all the stuff that has to do with the charity fraud allegations, which is the main thing I'm going to talk about in this video, because I feel like it's the biggest problem with the Completionist response. He says that he apologizes if any of his previous statements were potentially misleading. Those are his words, not mine. And here are the examples of him being potentially misleading.
Brother and I started a foundation called the Open Hand Foundation that raises money for dementia research and treatment for organizations all over the world. We're soon going to be partnering up with the Alzheimer's Association, currently working with the University of San Francisco, and we're kind of one of their main funding support partners going into all of this.
And then I made statements potentially implying donations were made when they had not yet been.
All bits, all donations, all super chats, all YouTube memberships, basically anything that's tied to donating or subscribing in a financial way to us is going to charity. We're not touching any of it. It's all going for a good cause. We're going to have a great weekend. We have a lot of games.
And then I made statements potentially implying donations were made when they had not yet been.
All the money goes to the Open Hand Foundation, an organization that we started in honor of my mom, and all that money goes to dementia research. We don't touch any of it. We just work with the people who do need the money, and we help them do their thing.
And then I made statements potentially implying donations were made when they had not yet been.
Now, whenever you're literally saying that you're one of the biggest donations, you contribute the most amount of money to a charity or a specific organization, I feel like that's a lot more than just being misleading, or if anybody interpreted something the wrong way. I feel like it's very obvious what people would conclude from that you are one of the biggest donators to a charity, that you are giving more money than a majority of the people to a charity, leading people to believe that their money is contributing to a charity. This isn't even me downplaying it either. He says that, some of the things he might have said previously could have been potentially misleading, but there's nothing potentially misleading about it. These are very obvious, claims that have one answer, okay? You can't really misinterpret the things that he's saying. He's not beating around the bush. He's saying that he contributes money to these charities. He gives money to these charities. The money that he collects goes straight to these charities. There's nothing misleading about that to be interpreted. Now, one of his biggest arguments against himself was that that he was actively reaching out to charities and trying to find a charity to be able to donate the money that he had collected to.
I knew it was sitting there at a certain point, and that's what made me proactively go about it. Like,
do you know when that point was?
I was made aware in 2021 when the money hadn't moved yet.
However, throughout this entire video, he does not provide one receipt of him reaching out to any charity. Now, this is a big problem because this is kind of the only thing he can argue upon, okay? We already know he hasn't donated any of the money like he said he already had, and then he barely apologized for it and used very select wording when doing so. So the only thing he has to fall back on is that he's at least very much trying to reach out to these charities, which he provides no evidence for. There's nothing in this video, there's no email receipt, there's nothing from a charity saying, or in any picture or anything of him reaching out to an actual charity. We're just supposed to take his word that he was actually going out to and, you know, trying to find somebody to donate the money to, which he has given us no reason to. Why would we take his word for this stuff? Why would we? That's like taking the word for the kid that always lied about stuff in elementary school. Why, like, what? Why would you believe somebody like that? He's given us no reason for us to believe him. Another huge problem is that the completionist was supposedly made aware of the discrepancy, the $600,000 that hadn't been donated in 2021, okay? So in 2021, he was aware that this money had not been donated anywhere, but after that continued to say that he was actively supporting charities, and then in this video never once mentioned that. So let's say as soon as he were to figure out that this money had not been going anywhere, and he were to have said something, hey guys, all this money that we've been raising has just been sitting in this account and we're looking for a charity to donate to, then this case wouldn't exist, okay? There'd be no problem here. Because that's the whole problem with it, is you're misleading people into thinking that their money is going directly to charities when it's not, and in fact it's just been sitting there. But now, it's 2 years later, and you never once ever told anybody that the money was still sitting there, that you had never donated it. That is a huge problem. And like I said, all he would have had to do is say, hey guys, sorry about this, originally whenever he figured that out, and then this entire situation would be non-existent. The last main thing that he did that I think is another huge problem is that he said multiple times that absolutely none of the money that he collects is to anybody's benefit, and it goes straight to the charities that he says it's going to. We already know that's a lie, but the benefit part we've also found out is a lie. He said in some of those live stream clips that I talked about that bits, you know, Twitch donos, this kind of stuff, subscriptions, all of it goes straight to the charities. And then in his response video, he says that one of the reasons that not all the money was accounted for is because stuff like, you know, bits, subscriptions, Twitch donos goes to offset the prices of making the fucking foundation. Now, for those of you who don't know what offset means, it basically means it costs the completionist X amount of money to be able to run this open, you know, the indie land stream. And so he uses those Twitch donos to be able to break even, so that way he's not losing any money making these, which means that the money from the Twitch donos is directly helping him. At this point right here, he said that all of this money was going straight to the charities and it was not to his benefit, and then right here, it's now to be able to offset the cost of making the event. Guy, what? But that's basically it. That's really all that, you know, is said in the completionist response and then Mutterhaj's response. This is going to be the last video I make on this subject because the situation's over, okay? I think it's pretty much a closed case at this point that, you know, maybe the completionist just isn't a good guy, and maybe there's just one too many discrepancies for this to be just an accident. But that's basically the video. If you liked it, watch my other videos. If you don't, I don't care. Bye.